Slender Man is a figure born not from oral tradition, but from the collaborative fiction of the internet. He first appeared in June 2009 on the Something Awful forums in response to a call for users to create paranormal imagery. Eric Knudsen, under the pseudonym Victor Surge, submitted 2 black and white photographs altered to include a tall, faceless humanoid figure in a dark suit. Standing silently behind children at play, the figure was captioned with ominous, fabricated lore. Though entirely fictional, these images ignited a creative explosion that would birth one of the internet's most enduring urban myths. Slender Man's mythology expanded rapidly through digital storytelling. On sites like Creepypasta Wiki and YouTube series such as Marble Hornets, new creators added traits: elongated limbs, tentacle-like appendages, a forested domain, and the ability to induce madness or compel violence. He became a decentralized myth, shaped not by a single author, but by thousands across forums, image boards, and video platforms. Unlike traditional folklore, his origin was known, yet this transparency did not diminish his power. Instead, it illustrated how myth could flourish in the digital age through collective authorship and viral transmission. The story turned darkly real in 2014 when 2 12-year-old girls in Waukesha, Wisconsin, lured a friend into the woods and stabbed her 19 times, claiming they did so to please Slender Man. The case shocked the public and led to widespread debates about internet culture, mental health, and the boundaries of fiction. Though the victims survived, the event left a permanent shadow over the myth. Slender Man persists today not just as a horror figure, but as a symbol of how the internet can generate folklore: fluid, immediate, and chillingly effective. Ben Drowned is a digital ghost story that emerged in September 2010 from the fusion of classic haunted tales with early internet creepypasta culture. It began with a user named Alex Hall, writing under the alias Jaducible, who posted a detailed account on the creepypasta forums and 4chan's paranormal board. His story described acquiring a used The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask cartridge from a strange old man. The game, he claimed, behaved erratically, filled with glitches, reversed music, distorted textures, and an inescapable, statue-like figure known as Ben. Unlike earlier text-based creepypasta, Ben Drowned employed a multimedia approach. The story unfolded through YouTube videos, interactive websites, and in-character journal entries. Readers could follow hyperlinks, decode messages, and immerse themselves in an expanding mythos. Hall introduced the idea of a malevolent AI, or digital spirit, a drowned boy named Ben, whose essence had somehow merged with corrupted game code. The narrative evolved from a simple ghost story into a meta-horror saga about technology, identity, and the porous boundary between fiction and reality. Ben Drowned became a foundational moment in internet horror. It demonstrated the power of transmedia storytelling, where text, video, and user interaction combined to create a participatory mythology. It also helped define the haunted media genre, a theme in which nostalgia becomes corrupted and safe childhood icons turn uncanny. As with Slender Man, the story thrived in part because it felt decentralized and uncontained. Smile Dog is a creepypasta legend centered on a cursed image file known as smile.jpg. Circulating online since around 2008, the image is said to depict a grotesque dog-like creature with human teeth fixed in a disturbing grin. Often shown against a dimly lit backdrop, the figure appears in low resolution, lending the image an eerie ambiguity. The story claims that viewing the file leads to vivid nightmares, psychological distress, or madness, unless the viewer shares the image with others, thus spreading the word. The myth is typically presented in the form of a first-person testimony, often from an investigator or victim recounting their descent into fear and obsession. These accounts blend digital folklore with classic horror motifs: forbidden knowledge, mental breakdown, and unseen forces that haunt through images. The terror lies not in violence, but in suggestion, what the mind projects onto the blurred, unnatural grin. Smile Dog reflects early anxieties of the internet age, where anonymous content spreads unchecked and the boundary between fiction and fear collapses. It endures as a symbol of digital contagion, an unsettling reminder that even a single file can carry with it the weight of myth, paranoia, and the fear of what should not be seen. The Russian Sleep Experiment is a modern horror narrative that emerged online around 2010, widely circulated as a creepypasta disguised as a declassified Soviet-era document. The story claims that in the late 1940s, Russian researchers sealed 5 political political prisoners in an airtight chamber and exposed them to an experimental gas designed to eliminate the need for sleep. For 15 days, the subjects reportedly remained awake, but descended into madness, mutilation, and ultimately death. Presented in clinical language, the narrative unfolds with escalating horror, from erratic behavior and paranoia to self-inflicted injuries and cannibalism. The final revelation, that the subjects had become something no longer fully human, offers a chilling reflection on consciousness, suffering, and the limits of scientific control. The story's impact lies in its presentation. Despite being wholly fictional, it mimics the tone of official documentation, blurring the line between plausible atrocity and imagined horror. Though there is no historical basis for the tale, its influence is wide-reaching. It reflects Cold War anxieties, distrust of authoritarian science, and fascination with forbidden knowledge. The Russian sleep experiment remains one of the internet's most enduring horror myths, a fabricated file that evokes the specter of cruelty, secrecy, and the human psyche pushed past its breaking point. Cicada 3301 is the name attributed to a series of cryptic internet puzzles, first posted in January 2012. The initial message appeared on the 4chan message board, claiming to seek highly intelligent individuals. What followed was a global scavenger hunt involving complex cryptography, data security, steganography, and esoteric references to literature, philosophy, and mathematics. Participants were drawn into a multi-layered web of clues, extending from the digital realm to physical posters placed in cities across multiple continents. The puzzles were exceptionally sophisticated, incorporating elements such as prime number sequences, ancient texts, PGP encrypted files, and references to figures like William Blake and René Descartes. Solvers required not just technical skill but intellectual breadth. The organization behind Cicada identified itself only through minimal communication, never revealing its purpose or members. Those who succeeded in early rounds reported being invited to private forums, after which they fell silent. Speculation about Cicada 3301 has been intense. Some suspect it is a recruitment tool for intelligence agencies or a secret society. Others see it as an elaborate social experiment or a commentary on open-source intelligence and digital privacy. Despite ongoing puzzles in 2013 and 2014, the group has since remained dormant. Cicada 3301 differs from typical internet myths in that it avoids horror or fiction. Its mystery lies in its precision and silence. It does not frighten, it challenges. It has inspired documentaries, academic analyses, and countless amateur codebreakers, all drawn to its promise of meaning beyond the visible. Cicada 3301 stands as one of the internet age's most refined enigmas, a riddle without a solution, a message from an unseen sender, and a monument to the intellectual mystique of the digital unknown. The Backrooms is an internet myth that emerged in May 2019 from a single, uncanny image posted to 4chan's paranormal board. The photograph depicts a seemingly endless yellow-lit interior, faded wallpaper, damp carpet, and buzzing fluorescent lights, devoid of furniture or people. A user captioned it, "If you're not careful and you no-clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the Backrooms." From that moment, a collaborative mythology took form around the concept of an alternate dimension composed of liminal spaces. The Backrooms are described as vast and maze-like, with shifting architecture and oppressive atmosphere. They are divided into levels, each with its own environmental hazards, layouts, and hostile entities. Unlike traditional horror based on monsters or narrative climax, the fear here is environmental, anxiety born of isolation, endless monotony, and spatial distortion. The myth is shaped by user contributions, evolving across platforms like Reddit, YouTube, and independent game engines. The concept resonates deeply with a growing fascination for liminality, places that exist between functions, empty offices, stairwells, storage rooms, rendered surreal by their scale and emptiness. In a digital culture saturated with high-definition horror, the Backrooms evoke unease through the low-resolution aesthetics of early 2000s imagery, drawing on nostalgia and the uncanny. More than a setting, the Backrooms represent an inversion of reality's comfort. They suggest a universe governed not by logic or time, but by forgotten corners and broken rules. Their popularity reflects a modern psychological fear, not of what stalks the halls, but of being lost in them forever. Momo is a viral internet myth that gained global attention in 2018, centered on a chilling image of a wide-eyed woman with distorted features, stringy black hair, and a grotesque smile. The image, unsettling on its own, was a photograph of a sculpture titled Motherbird by Japanese artist Keisuke Aisawa, originally displayed at a Tokyo horror art gallery. Without context, the image was repurposed online and tied to the so-called Momo challenge. The myth alleged that children were being contacted by Momo through messaging platforms like WhatsApp, where they were coerced into a series of escalating tasks involving self-harm, secrecy, and in some versions, suicide. The story quickly triggered a wave of media coverage, school warnings, and parental concern. However, investigations by digital safety experts and news organizations found no verifiable evidence of the challenge's existence beyond rumor and recycled imagery. It was, in effect, a hoax, sustained not by perpetrators, but by public fear. Momo illustrates how myths born on the internet can spread with extraordinary speed, driven by visual shock, moral panic, and the ambiguity of online information. It serves as a cautionary tale about digital folklore, media amplification, and the fragile boundary between fiction and fear. Though the original sculpture was removed and the myth has faded, Momo remains a case study in how 21st century legends form, not through ancient stories, but through viral images, societal anxieties, and the collective storytelling of a connected world. Candle Cove is a fictional television show at the center of a creepypasta myth first posted by writer Chris Straub in 2009. Framed as a series of nostalgic online forum posts, the story unfolds as adults recall watching a low-budget children's program in the 1970s. The show, they claim, featured unsettling puppets, eerie nautical themes, and a villain known as the Skin Taker, an animated skeleton with glass eyes and a mouth that moved too much when he spoke. As the thread progresses, each contributor shares fragmented memories, odd episodes, distorted music, and unsettling feelings of dread. One poster recalls an episode where the characters just screamed for 30 minutes. The climax comes when a user's mother reveals that, during the time the show supposedly aired, there was no broadcast, only static. The children, she insists, had been watching nothing. The brilliance of Candle Cove lies in its subtlety. Rather than overt horror, it creates unease through the structure of false memory and shared delusion. The story taps into the uncanny nature of childhood television, its strange tone, surreal characters, and the unreliability of recollection. It also mimics the aesthetics of online nostalgia, where anonymous users collectively reconstruct half-remembered media. Candle Cove was later adapted into a television series, but its power remains strongest in its original form as a minimalist exercise in collaborative unease. It endures as a defining example of internet-born horror, quiet, intimate, and deeply psychological, turning the flickering screen of memory into a source of dread. Jeff the Killer is one of the earliest and most recognizable figures in creepypasta folklore, emerging around 2008 from a convergence of anonymous horror fiction and disturbing imagery. The myth centers on a young boy named Jeff, who, after being disfigured in a violent incident, descends into madness. The story culminates in Jeff murdering his family and disappearing, leaving behind only his signature phrase, "Go to sleep." The image most associated with Jeff, a pale, noseless face with hollow eyes and an exaggerated smile, has circulated widely online. It is often presented as a corrupted photograph or screenshot, further blurring the boundary between fiction and found media. Though its exact origin remains debated, the image became inseparable from the narrative, embodying the lo-fi, uncanny aesthetic of early internet horror. Jeff's backstory has undergone multiple iterations, often rewritten by fans to add detail, psychological complexity, or new lore. Despite its narrative simplicity and stylistic flaws, the myth endured because of its accessibility and visual impact. It offered a horror figure that could be easily reproduced, modified, and shared, ideal for the collaborative structure of online myth-making. Jeff the Killer reflects a transitional moment in internet folklore, where horror left traditional publishing behind and took root in image boards and personal blogs. He stands not as a refined character, but as a raw emblem of digital-era fear, grim, viral, and shaped by collective imagination. His expression, frozen in artificial shadow, remains a haunting symbol of what early internet horror chose to remember and what it chose to invent. Eyeless Jack is a creepypasta character who emerged from the internet horror community around 2010, introduced through a first-person narrative that blends body horror with psychological dread. The story, originally titled Eyeless Jack, Jack recounts a young man's experience with a mysterious intruder who attacks him during the night. After waking with pain near his kidney, the protagonist learns at the hospital that one of his organs has been surgically removed, with no sign of struggle or forced entry. Over time, he discovers the culprit is an inhuman figure with a featureless black face and hollow sockets, leaking dark fluid, Eyeless Jack. The myth quickly spread, largely through fan art, YouTube readings, and short-form adaptations. Like other early creepypasta icons, Eyeless Jack is not defined by a complex backstory, but by an arresting visual, a blue-hooded figure, faceless yet menacing, whose surgical precision contrasts with his grotesque appearance. Subsequent fanfiction expanded the lore, offering speculative origins ranging from medical experimentation to demonic possession. Eyeless Jack symbolizes a specific type of internet-born fear, violation of the body by something unknowable, silent, and surgically precise. Unlike traditional monsters, he does not kill indiscriminately, but harvests, suggesting a logic beyond cruelty. His enduring popularity stems from this tension between clinical coldness and supernatural horror. As a product of early 2010 digital folklore, Eyeless Jack remains a minimalist yet memorable figure, rooted in the aesthetics of anonymity and invasion, where the terror lies not in what he reveals, but in what he methodically takes away. Laughing Jack is a fictional horror character created in 2011 by user Snuffbomb on the Creepypasta Wiki. Originally introduced through a short story titled The Origin of Laughing Jack, the character is portrayed as a sinister, monochrome clown with long limbs, a distorted grin, and a malevolent nature masked by childlike whimsy. He is described as an imaginary friend turned monstrous, a once colorful companion who becomes increasingly dark as the child he was assigned to grows more corrupted. The narrative follows Laughing Jack as he attaches himself to a young boy, initially appearing friendly before descending into increasingly violent and sadistic behavior. Eventually, he reveals his true form, an emotionless killer who mutilates his victims and takes pleasure in psychological torment. The story ends with the boy's mother framed for her son's gruesome death, left unable to prove that the horror she witnessed was real. Laughing Jack's popularity grew rapidly, bolstered by fan art, cosplay, and character expansions that positioned him among the pantheon of internet horror icons. Visually and thematically, he blends familiar fears, clowns, childhood innocence, and unseen evil, with the psychological unease of betrayal and loss. As a myth, Laughing Jack embodies the transformation of joy into terror. He reflects anxieties around childhood imagination and the breakdown of trust in once safe spaces. His laughter, once playful, becomes a signal of danger, a reminder that even imagined friends can harbor darkness. SCP-173 is the first entry in the SCP Foundation, a collaborative fiction project that originated in 2007 on 4chan's paranormal board. The SCP Foundation presents itself as a secret organization tasked with securing, containing, and protecting the world from anomalous objects, entities, and phenomena. SCP-173 is designated as one such object, a hostile, animate statue resembling a crude, humanoid figure constructed of concrete and rebar, with traces of spray paint on its face. According to the fictional containment report, SCP-173 cannot move while being observed, but will violently attack by snapping the necks of those who look away or blink. Personnel are required to maintain direct eye contact at all times when in its presence, and to work in teams to prevent accidental deaths. The entry is written in the clinical, detached tone of bureaucratic documentation, heightening its realism and immersiveness. SCP-173 quickly became iconic within the SCP community, inspiring games, adaptations, and thousands of additional entries. It established the tone and structure for the entire SCP mythos, blending horror, science fiction, and institutional language into a genre often described as anomalous containment horror. Mandela Catalogue is a web-based analog horror series created by Alex Kister in 2021. Released on YouTube, the series adopts the format of public service announcements, security footage, and emergency broadcasts to depict a growing existential threat within a fictionalized version of Mandela County. The central antagonists are known as alternates, malevolent doppelgangers that mimic human appearance but possess subtly incorrect features and deeply disturbing psychological intent. The horror of Mandela Catalogue is not based in action or gore, but in in atmosphere and implication. The series presents its narrative through fragmented, lo-fi media artifacts, corrupted VHS tapes, glitched text, and grainy surveillance footage. Themes of identity, religious paranoia, and mental deterioration recur throughout. Victims of alternates are often driven to suicide or delusion, unable to trust their senses or surroundings. The series blurs the boundary between technological media and supernatural invasion. Mandela Catalogue is a modern entry in the genre of analog horror, influenced by the aesthetics of 1980s and 1990s educational and emergency programming. Its power lies in the interplay of nostalgia and dread, transforming once familiar formats into carriers of disquieting content. Rather than offer clear resolutions, it builds a slow, oppressive mythology through implication and subtle escalation. It presents horror not as something external, but as a distortion embedded in the tools of communication themselves. In its silence and static, it echoes a fear that what we see may already be a lie. Dear David is a serialized paranormal narrative created by illustrator Adam Ellis in 2017, unfolding over several months on Twitter. The story documents Ellis's alleged haunting by the ghost of a deformed child named David, who first appears in dreams before manifesting in photographs, videos, and unexplained occurrences within Ellis's apartment. The format, diary-like tweets, grainy images, short clips, and floor plans, blurs the line between fiction and reality, mimicking the immediacy and intimacy of real-time confession. According to the narrative, David is a ghost who answers only one question if asked, and will kill anyone who breaks this rule. As Ellis continues to experience escalating disturbances, he claims to hear noises, receive mysterious calls, and capture glimpses of David through motion sensors and pet monitors. The haunting's progression is methodical, with each update offering new fragments of dread that invite audience speculation and viral attention. Dear David's innovation lies in its platform. Rather than a traditional story or video, it uses social media itself as a storytelling medium, turning the thread into a collaborative performance between creator and audience. Followers debated, analyzed, and investigated in real time, heightening the illusion of authenticity. Though Ellis later confirmed the story as fictional, Dear David remains one of the most influential examples of digital horror told through social media. It reflects a contemporary fear, not just of the supernatural, but of how easily fear can spread through connectivity, transforming an ordinary timeline into a modern ghost story. A858 refers to a Reddit user who began posting in March 2011 on the subreddit r/A858. The account's sole activity consisted of long, cryptic strings of characters, seemingly meaningless hexadecimal code. For years, the posts appeared without explanation, titles, or responses. The subreddit itself remained locked to all but a few moderators. The mystery attracted amateur cryptographers, conspiracy theorists, and curious readers attempting to decode the purpose of the messages. Occasionally, decoded strings revealed textual patterns, ASCII art, or brief poetic fragments, but no clear narrative or identity ever emerged. The poster never responded, and the intent remained elusive. In 2016, the account stopped posting entirely. It briefly returned in 2021 with a few cryptic messages, then went dormant again. Despite years of speculation, the meaning of A858's activity has never been definitively explained. The fascination with A858 lies not in content, but in its silence. Unlike other digital myths shaped by narrative or image, A858 resists interpretation entirely. It becomes a kind of modern oracle, deliberately opaque, inviting obsession through its refusal to resolve. The mystery itself becomes the message. A858 represents a unique category of internet folklore, one grounded in code, anonymity, and unsolvable design. It reflects a cultural fixation with hidden systems, and the belief that beneath surface randomness lies intent. Whether art project, puzzle, or personal ritual, A858 remains a cipher from the age of information, haunting not by what it says, but by what it withholds.